What's up guys, thanks for stopping by, I hope you're doing good. If you've been playing Valheim, whether it's just for a few hours or for a few hundred hours, by this point it's pretty much guaranteed that you've noticed the giant tree in the sky. So in this video, I wanted to talk about everything we know about it so far. I hope you enjoyed this video, let's jump into it. Okay, so this video is going to be broken up into 3 different sections. Number 1 will be the in-game lore and story behind the giant tree. Number 2 will be, does the tree lead anywhere or actually do anything in game. Number 3 will be about the tree's place in Norse mythology to provide a little extra context as to why it's there and to see if we can speculate about potential future content. So let's start with number 1. Okay, so the giant tree is actually called Yggdrasil. On the Valheim wiki it states Yggdrasil, or the World Tree, is an immense sacred tree in Norse lore. The enormous array of glowing branches that can be seen very high in the sky during clear weather is a part of the World Tree. According to the in-game lore, this tree was once anchored to Valheim as well as 9 other worlds, before Odin severed the boughs that connected Valheim to it after designating the world as a prison for his foes. So before we dive into the Norse mythology, let's talk a little bit about whether or not Yggdrasil actually leads anywhere. If you've been following Valheim from launch, many of you are probably familiar with this little adventure where you follow the giant tree all the way to the edge of the map and you sail off the edge of the world and die. Yggdrasil does actually always point east, so it can actually serve some use when navigating the map, but it's safe to say that by any normal means, Yggdrasil basically leads nowhere except to a kind of hilarious death. But does it lead anywhere if we get slightly more creative? Using the game's debug command, we're able to fly all the way up to the giant tree to get a closer look and to follow it as far as possible. First of all, it's kind of cool to get a close look at the tree. It actually kind of surprised me how good it looks up close, because normally in games when you get this close to textures you're not really supposed to be able to reach, it looks kind of bad. But in this case, I think it actually looks kind of cool. Seeing all the green glowing veins, it's actually clear that they put some effort into this level of detail on this tree, which I think is actually a really nice touch. Actually, on this topic, something that's probably worth mentioning for people that want to get a close look at this tree but they don't want to use cheats, there is actually a glitch that you can do inside burial chambers that will allow you to get a close look without using the debug command. Basically, to do this glitch, you just need to find a burial chamber, then find a door inside a burial chamber, and if you open the door and then aim at the door, make sure your character is facing the door handle with your back pushed up against the wall, close the door, and it will then force you through the wall of the burial chamber, and you can then actually climb on top of the burial chamber if you want. But if you just leap off, you'll see that all the burial chambers are actually stored really high above the map, and you'll come crashing down back onto the ground. But in the process, you can actually get a nice view of the giant tree without using any cheats. And also, if you have over 100 HP, because 100 is the max fall damage you take, you can also survive this fall without using cheats as well. But anyway, I don't want to delay any further. I'm sure you guys really want to see if there's actually anything I found using debug mode following this tree. So without further ado, let's see what I found. That's right. If you follow the giant tree all the way off the edge of the map, it will actually lead you to Ashlands. But this isn't the normal Ashlands that exist at the South Pole of the map. This is some kind of weird debug Ashlands that's actually a huge open desert with golden sand dunes, sort of like the Sahara Desert or something. It does actually contain Surtlings, just like the normal Ashlands does. And there is not much here, to be honest. Nonetheless, I thought this was super cool when I first found it. My guess that this area was used as some kind of testing stage either for working on Ashlands or just a general testing stage that devs can use to test different kinds of stuff. Before I go any further though, after further testing, I can confirm that this version of the Ashlands is what exists at the bottom of the fall at every edge of the map. So it isn't just from following the giant tree. You can get this north, south, or west as well. So it's not quite as cool as I wanted it to be. It would have been so cool if you could only find this by following the giant tree. But nonetheless, the giant tree is what led me here personally, and I do think this area is very cool. Before we move on to talking about Norse mythology, it's very unusual that this place exists and that enemies actually spawn here, especially considering that the Ashlands is already in the game. And it actually makes me wonder if the developers actually plan to develop biomes that exist off the edge of the map that maybe you'd be able to officially get to in some point in the future using some official means. Maybe this is something they do plan to do. Maybe this is something that they started working on and they decided against it, but it's just left in. Or maybe it's just some kind of early access weirdness to do with how they made the game and this will all be taken out eventually. I don't know, but I just wanted to state that it is kind of interesting because a certain amount of effort it's obviously gone into this existing. So maybe we could be looking at a potential expansion of the whole map around the edges or some kind of unique biome in the future that exists off the edge. It's way too early to confirm that. But anyway, you can only exist here with cheats currently because the game just automatically kills you. So it's only because of God mode that you're able to survive here. And you can only really explore it whilst flying because the game continuously pushes you along the floor further and further outwards. So it's super weird and glitchy, but interesting nonetheless. Okay, so now it's time to talk about the Norse mythology about Yggdrasil. Before I jump into this, I just want to say this part of the video took me a long time to put together because Yggdrasil is actually such an important part of Norse mythology that there is so much information on it. So it was really hard to try and boil it all down into a relatively short video because you could legitimately talk about this for hours. So we'll now do a summary of the Norse mythology behind Yggdrasil based on my own research, and I will put links in the description to places where you can read some more about it, because if you are interested in this stuff, Yggdrasil is really fascinating to read about. So let's jump into it. Yggdrasil is an eternal green ash tree in Norse mythology. It stands in the middle of the world with branches that stretch out over all of the 9 realms. Each realm hangs on its own branch, but if the tree should shake or fall, so will all the realms. Yggdrasil is a combination of 2 words, Ygr, which is one of Odin's names and means terrifier, the one who strikes all. Drasil basically means horse, but in a majestic and ceremonial way. Therefore, the name Yggdrasil means Odin's horse. Odin, who is always in the pursuit of more knowledge, once sacrificed himself on the tree to gain more knowledge. This act by Odin is described in the Old Norse poem Havamal. The following 2 verses are of particular note. I know that I hung on a windy tree 9 long nights, wounded with a spear dedicated to Odin, myself to myself, on that tree of which no man knows from where its roots run. No one gave me bread nor a horn. I looked down, I took up the runes. Screaming, I fell from there. When Odin was hanging on the tree, he was therefore riding the tree as a horse. This mythological metaphor can be seen as Norse humor. It was in the final moments before Odin fell from Yggdrasil that he learned the secrets of the runes. This is why this story is very important in Norse mythology, because runes play a very important role in Viking culture. Yggdrasil is carried by 3 enormous roots, with a well located next to each of them. According to Norse mythology, Yggdrasil is much more than a big tree. In Norse cosmology, Yggdrasil provides the very structure of the universe. I'm sure most people watching this video are aware of the Vikings' belief in multiple worlds, such as Midgard and Asgard, but the Vikings believed there were a total of 9 worlds, all of which existed somewhere on the branch and root system of Yggdrasil. This image is the absolute best and clearest artist rendition of this world structure that I could find. I wish I could find the artist to properly credit, but I will post a link to where I found it in the description, because I actually found it on the wiki for an author called Rick Riordan, so shout out to him, I guess. It's possible that the trees exist existence in the game could potentially play a factor in future content if we're able to get access to the root system to travel between different worlds. I don't think this is likely, as in the in-game lore, as stated at the start of the video, Valheim is apparently severed from the root system, but it's an interesting thought nonetheless. So anyway, not only was Yggdrasil some important tree that Odin once hung on, the Vikings essentially believed it was the very fabric of the universe, which might be the most epic way to conclude this video. Alright guys, that's just about going to do it for this one. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for future content. Also, let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the lore section of this video and whether you'd like to see more videos about Valheim lore in the future. I'm actually streaming almost every single day live on this YouTube channel and also live on Twitch, so I'll leave a link in the description for that. If you want to support the content financially, then you can do so on Patreon at patreon.com/NickRawcliffe. If you don't want to create a Patreon account, you can also send a donation. There's a link in the description to both of those. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, have a good one.